Good morning guys, Chris from the Ultimate Recycler. Just thought I'd do a bit of a follow-up video to the recent one I did about the floods in our local area. The lake's gone down quite a bit. It's a day and a half since I last filmed. So the water is dropping, and at the moment Shepparton, the next town to the north of here, or the biggest town to the north of here, is under flood. It didn't quite reach the record height there. I believe it's dropping now. It did get a record here, and they are forecasting up to 100 mil of rain later this week, so I'm going to keep you informed and kind of just document the event on my channel, even though it's not really recycling. However, a lot of the locals here are working in hard this morning. We had a community meeting last night, and there's a lot of volunteers down here to help clean up the edge of the lake and all the rubble that's floated here from everywhere else. I'll just show you what we're doing and how low the water's got compared to last video. So this is the lake now, just off the main street of Nagambie. If you didn't catch the last video, I'll put a link down below, and it shows you how high the water was here. We can now see the poles on the edge of the boardwalk, and some of the locals are raking up all the I'm not sure what you call it, everything that floated in. There's a lot of branches and sticks and twigs mixed with rubbish and even firewood. So we're quite a band of loyal helpers here this morning cleaning up. It's just after 9 in the morning. It's not a bad day. The lake's perfectly still. It's like a mill pond, but it looks an awful brown colour, as you'd expect after a flood. And it's still very much higher than what it normally is. We'll duck out to the driveway to the Caravan Park shortly and just see how far that's gone down. We hope to get into the park, which is across the lake there. Hopefully today or tomorrow, to rescue what we can out of my daughter's cafe, which did go under by about a couple of feet. Again, if you haven't seen the lead up to this video, go and look at the previous one. But yep, we're doing a pretty good job here. I think the foreshore's cleaned up very quickly, and we have a pile of firewood and things up on the edge of the road. Let's go up and have a look. There's actually not a lot of rubbish here, but remember, it's only the stuff that floats that's come across the lake. I shudder to think what the river's like, because a lot of the stuff just would have gone down the river. We're gathering a lot of firewood, which I think might be a good idea to maybe raffle it off and send the proceeds to some worthy cause. Not only bits of building materials, but there's a lot of actual firewood, which is pretty expensive to buy these days. We have some stuff on the trailer which is going to go to a designated yard where people can reclaim their goods, things like kayaks and eskies and outdoor chairs that did float. Some people are coming to find their lost possessions. And of course there is a bit of landfill, but we're trying to keep that to a minimum. Just an update down on the driveway into the Caravan Park. The water has receded a long way further, but it's still very deep on this driveway. When I first came out here, it was over that 40k sign on the right. It's now to the base of the pole, but it's yeah, we won't be getting in here today. Where the trouble with driving through this is you have no idea what's under the water. There's a lot of branches of trees, and I don't think the road's been washed away because there hasn't been a strong current here, and that's the case on some rural roads, is that where the creek crosses the road, underneath the water, the actual road surface is totally gone. So you do have to be very careful driving through water, of course. This being still would be safe, but you have no idea what's under it. So we'll have to leave it another day. Christine and myself are going down to Seymour shortly to help some friends that had water right through their shop and their house. So that's where we're going to spend this morning. I may get a little bit of footage down there in Seymour to show you what it's like, but we'll see how we go. Okay guys, I'm back here at the lake this morning, and it has continued to drop, and we actually have our boardwalk back. So let's go for a bit of a walk. We did go to Seymour yesterday and help some friends for a few hours. They had a massive turn up, and in fact their entire street went under, and I didn't get any footage. I felt a little bit disrespectful to film while everyone else is cleaning up. So imagine the street fairly flat, a long way from the river, and it was actually waist height through every single house. It would have been overhead height out on the road, I would think. And our friends have a really nice shed out the back, which they use for rock and roll functions and everything. A lot of nice collectibles. It was probably almost chest deep out in the shed, so everything in wardrobes and things was wet halfway up. A lot of the furniture was falling apart, as all modern stuff does. And the antique furniture, you can certainly see the stains where the water got to. Back on the boardwalk here, it looks like it's survived quite well. It's very, very muddy, but the lake is still probably a metre higher than normal, but it's dropped down a lot. And we'll walk along this boardwalk for a bit. I reckon someone's been down here raking it off this morning, because it's I was expecting a lot more rubbish and branches and stuff on here, but maybe it all went up higher, and then as the water receded it was left up higher. We'll walk around to the pump shed. This is Nagambie's water supply. It's pumped out of the lake up into the big water tower, which is just over behind that tree, and it's a treatment plant and everything. So obviously they can't use this water at the moment. I believe they're trucking water in to keep the town with a good fresh supply. The trouble with floodwaters, and we were talking yesterday as we were cleaning out clothes and stuff out of a friend's house, that it's not just muddy water, it's water that's been through people's garden sheds with garden chemicals. It's got oil slick on it in places from when it's gone through garages, and of course when it's left for a few days you start to get mold and everything. So it's rather toxic really, and you need to keep out of it as much as possible. There's the water level on the that's the pump shed. So you can see it just got up to the sign on the door there. It just got up to the bottom of the unauthorized entry prohibited, and that is pretty much just above my head level where I'm standing. So the boardwalk was a good 5'11" under, probably about 6 foot, and the lake still has to drop another, I reckon another 3 feet or something to be back to normal. So yeah, it's good. There's no structural damage here, and I can see there's just a lot of rubbish, and there's still a lot of rubbish in the lake. I've got the trailer on this morning, and I'm going to do a load to the local tip. Look, I hate taking stuff to landfill, but when you see what we pull out of houses and what gets pulled out of the river, given that the water is not clean distilled water, you just can't save things. The other thing, I've got a TV, and I'll show you that before we finish up this video. I've got a TV out of our friend's house that was going to be thrown straight in the skip because it went under. I'm going to see if I can save it. Electronics you can sometimes save if they're dried out properly, but I'll have to be careful to wash it out with fresh water first, because you just never know what water's been through it or what toxins have been through it. And that's the really big disappointing part with cleaning up after floods, is that you do have to send a lot of stuff to landfill. People cleaning up are under pressure. You can't sort of put one thing aside and wash it out with a hose and say, well, there, that's done, what's next? You have to get their place back into some sort of livable condition as soon as possible. Then you have to deal with insurance companies, and also just coordinating all your friends that want to come and help, and that takes time and mental energy as well. You just can't save everything, and it's a real shame, but a lot of stuff does go to landfill that in normal times shouldn't. Have a look at the sticks up on top of this, just left there by the floodwaters. Beautiful Nagambie Lakes. They will be again. Okay, let's go and have a look. There's a bit of stuff up on the side of the road that I'll probably throw in the ute and the trailer. There's a lot of firewood still here, so I'd imagine this will be raked out once it dries out a bit. We'll also go out and have a look at the cafe at the driveway to see if my girls can get back into their cafe today. But it is nice to see the boardwalk back. It looks like we're returning to normal. Just a lot of work to be done, and fingers crossed we don't get too much rain later this week. They are still forecasting a fair bit, but we just don't know where it's gonna fall. Okay guys, I've just come out to the Caravan Park, and that's the driveway from the other end. I've just made it in. I did have to drive through a little bit of water. I probably should have filmed that, but my windscreen on my ute is very dirty and you wouldn't be able to see much. You can see that there's silt and mud absolutely everywhere. This is just outside the main entrance. The cars up on top of the hill there, I think, were parked there at the 11th hour, just before people had to evacuate. I don't think the water got in them. I think it got up to the wheels, whereas that little bus over there, I think, got water in it. I haven't looked, but have a look at the silt and the mud around here. I'm not sure how I'm going to turn around. I've just been picking up some rubble from the side of the street in town to go to the tip. Look at the mud through there. That's the regatta centre. You can see from the fence there that the water was right over the top here. No one's going to get in there for a while because that silt will be really thick, I would imagine. So here's the entrance to the park. There's obviously been some cars in this morning. people who had belongings in cabins. I'm sure they're trying to rescue stuff. I probably should get off the road shortly. The cafe is just in that front building there, so it will be accessible for Jess to maybe get in and try and salvage some other stuff. We don't know if the river's going to come up again. It would be very surprising if it came up anywhere near as high, this being a record, but you never know. If we get a good rain now, the fact that everything's already full, it could be just as bad. That looks like a bit of a walkway, bridge, pontoon, whatever you call it. That's obviously floated down the river from somewhere. I don't think it belongs there. So, alright, I might try and turn around if I can. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I don't really want to back all the way out the driveway with the trailer. I think I might be able to turn around up inside the park somewhere. The boom gates are wide open, so we might try and get through there. Okay, I am driving out now. I just got told that I shouldn't be in here, which is fair enough. They don't want sightseers in here. But I think Jess can contact management and see if we can come back in and see what we can rescue. As you can hear, the road's still very, very slushy and muddy. The windscreen probably doesn't look quite so dirty going this way, whereas driving into the sun I could barely see. So yeah, there you have it. What a mess, and in a few days everything's going to absolutely stink. As I was saying earlier, with this mud, it's not just dirty water, it's possibly toxic water, and it's going to, as it dries, the mud's going to set like concrete. Not a lot of fun to clean up. We would like to get into the cafe and kind of mop it out before the mud all sets. You can see there's still water over the road here. This was the lowest part of the driveway, which we were looking at either in the last video, I think, or in the start of this video too. So here we go, there's the last bit of water across the road. At least there's no logs, no branches down, no wash away of the road. It's just a matter of slushing through the mud. And I may have to take my ute to the car wash perhaps and wash it off before it sets. So I've just finished loading up a lot of stuff from alongside one of the streets here. This is in the newer area of Nagambie, along the edge of the lake. And the locals here, the local residents, have done a really great job of cleaning up the edge of the lake. We actually have a beach there, which is still underwater a bit, but there's a barbecue area, and that was actually right under the other day. So anyway, I've been driving around the streets looking for piles of rubbish. I'm going to leave these bigger things. I think that seat's okay, someone can restore that. The spare wheel off something is possibly still usable, and the bigger logs of wood someone might grab for their garden as a feature. I do have to be careful of my shoulder, and I'm not lifting anything super heavy. I don't think this table and chair set's much good, but someone might like to restore it, or at least someone stronger than me can load it up. So I've got a bit of rubbish. I've also got a bit of good enough firewood for my shed, so I'll take that home. There's a nice little hollow log type piece here which Christine might like in the garden. So a bit of general rubbish and a lot of branches and bits of trees and stuff. So I'm going to tie this down. We'll go out to the transfer station and get rid of that and move on to another job. Back in the shed now later this afternoon. After some more cleaning this afternoon, we went out to the girls' cafe and got about 28 bags of food out of the freezers that unfortunately will have to go to the tip, and it stinks already. We did salvage the radio that they had there. It has been under the floodwaters, so I'm going to see if I can save it. Also, I mentioned earlier this TV from our friend's place in Seymour. It's clearly had floodwaters through it. They were going to throw that straight in the skip. I'm going to have a go at saving it, see if we can. Will be separate videos on these perhaps. And this is stuff from the girls' cafe that was under the bench. I think that's a tablet of some sort, and clearly it's wet. And chargers and stuff which have... Oh, is it a phone? Is it a phone? I'm not sure what that is. Might be something to do with their... I think that's something to do with their pay system. So I'm going to see if I can save them. I'll take them apart, I'll dry them out. We might do a separate video and see if we can save that stuff. Anyway, we've got a lot of the food out, which was the main priority from out there at this stage. So thanks for coming along again, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this bit of a tour and about this major event that's been happening around here. And also, you know, I am trying to save some stuff from going to landfill, but as I've talked about, it's just really hard to save stuff when there's so much happening and you have to clear a lot of stuff quickly. But we'll do the best we can. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.